Welcome back, everybody. Joining us now is an honor. Congressman Mike McCaul, the chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, there's always so much news going on around the world, but something that I haven't heard you talk about, which is sort of breaking, is your committee, which is not known for doing this unless you really have to. You have issued subpoenas to the State Department as it relates to their handling of the withdrawal from Afghanistan.
Right.
Why did you feel the need to give them subpoenas for this information?
Well, this is the third subpoena that we have served on the State Department, and you're correct. We normally they would cooperate. We were going to move to hold the secretary in contempt over the basically the cables that came out of the embassy warning about what was going to happen. In this case, the after-action report that was developed by a former ambassador. The underlying documents, for whatever reason, they just refused to turn this over. And since last January, we've been very, I would say, patient with them. And now it's been almost 7 months, and they will not turn the documents over, so we served the subpoena.
Have they given you a reason why they're not turning them over?
No, but I suspect, as you know, you worked at the State Department. It involves emails, cables, all the underlying information that went into the after-action report. I think there's something there that's embarrassing, obviously, but the American people deserve to know. I was with the 13 servicemen and women's parents just the other day, and it was very powerful and very emotional to be with them. And they deserve answers, and they deserve accountability with respect to what happened. And the American people deserve that as well.
Well, we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of the fall of Kabul. Hopefully, you'll get to some of those answers of the State Department. Staying somewhat in the region, heading over to the Middle East, you know, there's a very weird story that I think has gone a little underreported, and that is that Rob Malley, who is this administration's Iran envoy, it seems that he has been fired or maybe temporarily put on leave. He himself tweeted that he lost his security clearance. Do you guys have any clue what's going on there?
Yes, and
would you please share?
It's very well. You lived in the classified world, so. But I will tell you that we tried to get him. He was he's the chief negotiator for the Iran deal, as you know. He was the architect of the JCPOA. He was the one in touch with the Iranians. Has the highest level of security clearance, classified secrets. What's very disturbing is that we tried to get him to testify before our committee, come in, give us classified briefings. Conveniently, he would not appear. Now we know why he didn't show up. What I'm deeply concerned about is because he had access to these very high-level sensitive documents and information, that if he turned that information over to a foreign nation adversary, like, say, Iran or Russia, as you know, that really would constitute an act of treason. And it's very disturbing that the man we're relying on for the information about the Iran deal and what the Iranians are telling him could be in violation of his security clearance. And again, I can't go into all the details, but it is under investigation.
Well, people have reported and talked about this case. I have not heard anyone use the T word, so that's the treason word, so that's pretty tough. Blake, go ahead. I know you
I feel like I'm in a briefing here between the State Department and the House Foreign. So there was, I'm glad that made you laugh. So there was pretty big news in Ukraine, Russia. Russia pulling out of the grain deal. Earlier this week. Now we know that there's sea mines in the Black Sea and that there's worries about that. Russia essentially saying if ships go into Ukrainian ports, they now view that as sort of a next level escalation. When you look at the Black Sea, Congressman, there are several NATO nations, you can see on the map here, that border the Black Sea. Is there any worry from your end that if there's an escalation between Russia and one of those ships from one of those nations, that NATO could get pulled in here and thus the United States, and thus there's an escalation?
Oh, sure. We've been worried about that scenario since the inception of the Russian invasion into Ukraine. I was with Speaker McCarthy in Romania at our NATO port there in the Black Sea. I went into Ukraine, been to Poland many times. You know, the fact is, though, that this is very, I think, disturbing on Putin's part to shut off the black grain or grain from the Black Sea into the Black Sea, because this could cause a famine in northern Africa, and it could also raise prices not only in Europe but the United States. So I think it's highly irresponsible what he's doing, but he's desperate now.
But
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.